Hello and welcome to day 21 of the Advanced Business English Idioms Challenge. Today we are looking at idioms related to persistence. I'm going to jump right in and get started by, first of all, reminding you that idioms are frequently used in spoken but not written. They're quite informal. But I'll start by telling you the idioms that we're going to look at today. So they're all related to this idea of persisting. We're going to learn these idioms. Stay the course, keep the lights on, keep the engine running, Rome wasn't built in a day, and persevere through thick and thin. Some of them are hyper-specific to business, and other ones are just genuinely appropriate for a professional context. I'll explain as I go along. I'm going to show you the idioms in context, first of all, in an extract. And I would just remind you that this is not how you would use them in spoken English. You wouldn't use all of the idioms all at once, all of the ones that you know. You would just use just one or two at a time, very sparingly. The reason I've put them all in there is just so you can get a feel for the meaning of them. I'm going to read this extract at the beginning and the end, and hopefully you can see a difference in your understanding. Okay, let's go. There was a time during COVID when our company almost fell apart. Money problems threatened to shut us down, and there were a few months when it was genuinely hard to keep the lights on. Okay, so that first paragraph is about the company had financial issues during COVID. It was hard to keep the lights on. Okay, second paragraph. We only really stayed the course because our oldest client persevered with us through thick and thin, even when we sometimes couldn't deliver the same level of service. They were understanding, and their custom, that means their business, their purchases, their custom helped us keep the engine running somewhat normally through it all. It took a long time to rebuild. That's okay though. Rome wasn't built in a day after all. Okay, so that's all the idioms that we're going to look at today. But let's look at them one by one and learn the meaning. So we're going to start with this one, stay the course, and I'll give you two examples. Despite facing numerous challenges, the team decided to stay the course and complete the project on schedule. The CEO's message to the employees was clear: stay the course and remain focused on our long-term objectives. Okay, so the course is the journey that you are on, and if you look at the image, it's kind of a convoluted or difficult journey. Whoop, just knocked my microphone over. I hope you can still hear. It's a convoluted and difficult journey at times. So if you are advising someone to stay the course, you are saying continue. So continue with a plan or activity despite difficulties or obstacles. Yes, it's difficult, but let's stay on the road and we'll get there. Stay the course. Okay, so stay the course is an idiom and it's informal, so it would be great for spoken communication. If you were wanting to say something similar in written communication in a professional context, then you would be perhaps better to use something like remain committed, persevere, or endure. So stay the course does have that negative connotation of it's difficult. Okay, here's a prompt that I would invite you to practice with. You're welcome to put your practice sentences into the comments, or perhaps you might want to speak out loud how you would answer this. But here's the prompt. Describe something you've managed to stay the course with over your career. So even though it's difficult, you've managed to continue with it. What would you say for you? Okay, this one is the one that is specific only to the context of business. Keep the lights on. Despite the economic downturn, the company managed to keep the lights on by implementing cost-saving measures. So the economy was doing badly, but they kept the lights on by being very careful about how they spent their money. Second example, When I lost my biggest 2 clients in 1 month, I kept the lights on by pivoting to working online. Pivoting means change. So we can understand from those examples that it's about dealing with some sort of financial challenge. And if you manage to keep the lights on, it means you manage to maintain operations and pay all the bills, especially during difficult times or when facing financial challenges. So if a business person speaks about, oh, I need to do XYZ to keep the lights on, it's a way of saying, like, to maintain the basic level of profitability of the company. So a more formal way of expressing it would be to sustain operations, maintain viability. That's another way of saying functioning profitability, or stay afloat. That's quite informal. Okay, so keep the lights on, keep the company going, and keep the company providing the function of what a good business does, which is to provide service and be profitable. So here's a question for you. How do charities usually keep the lights on in your country? It's difficult for charities to get enough funds coming. In my country, charities keep the lights on by asking for donations publicly. So you'll often see people in the street in big cities in the UK asking if you would like to sign up for a subscription for a repeat donation. And that's one way that the charities keep the lights on or remain functioning. So in that case, it's not really a question of being profitable in the traditional business sense, but being profitable in the sense of able to make their donations, able to provide the service that the charity provides. Okay, keep the engine running. The team worked tirelessly to keep the engine running and meet the tight deadline. Tirelessly means without becoming tired or without slowing down. Second one, despite facing setbacks, that means challenges that make things more difficult and put you back a little bit in your progress. Despite facing setbacks, the manager encouraged the team to keep the engine running and stay focused on their goals. Okay, what do you think it means? Keep the engine running. To maintain momentum or productivity, especially in a project or endeavor. So in that last example, despite facing setbacks, the manager encouraged the team to keep the engine running. That's a way of saying keep the usual levels of ability to work functioning. Keep everything going even though it's difficult. So keep the engine running is really informal. It's great for spoken English. More for written English, we might use maintain momentum, sustain productivity, keep things moving, or keep things going, a little bit more informal. But there's some options for you with the synonyms. Okay, do you think internal hiring keeps the engine running well, or does it damage morale too much? That is a complicated question. Let's break it down. Let's explain it step by step. So internal hiring is when a job opportunity is advertised only to people who already work at the organization. So this is something that happens at big organizations, companies, or governmental organizations. So if you are a manager in one branch of the company, you might have the opportunity to hire interview to be hired for a different position. And that opportunity is not publicly advertised to anyone external to the company or organization. So you have to be internal, you have to be working in the company to be able to apply for it. So some people say that that's a really positive thing because it offers the opportunity to people who are already there. Other people say it's a negative thing because it means the people you are competing against are your colleagues, and so it could damage morale. Morale is the mindset and the feeling of people that are working together. So positive morale or positive feelings are important for a healthy workplace. So what do you think? Do you think internal hiring is a good thing, or do you think it makes people too competitive? So that's a complicated question. You might want to write it down, even if you're going to speak about it. I think internal hiring does keep the engine running as it provides opportunities. Or I think internal hiring does not keep the engine running as it damages morale, makes people competitive against their coworkers, and creates stress when people are promoted over their friends. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. Did you manage to come up with an answer for that one? It's a very difficult prompt, difficult question. Okay, Rome wasn't built in a day. I had the absolute pleasure of going to Italy, but I've never been to Rome. It's on my bucket list, which means we want to do it one day. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been to Rome? It looks absolutely beautiful. Anyway, that was a little bit of a sidetrack. I'm going to give you the examples of this idiom. The CEO reminded everyone that building a successful company takes time, and Rome wasn't built in a day. It's important to remember that progress may be slow, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will our project be completed overnight. Okay. If we take Rome as an example of a place with absolutely exquisite architecture, we can understand that saying it wasn't built in a day is saying that it takes time for something beautiful. Achieving significant goals or accomplishments takes time and patience. It cannot be done quickly. So if you're going to build something exquisite, it's going to take more time. That's what it's saying. So Rome wasn't built in a day is used as a phrase on its own, kind of after a thought where you're saying, this is going to take time. Rome wasn't built in a day. So we can also say patience is key, progress takes time, or here's another idiom, good things come to those who wait. Those are all fairly informal. I think patience is key is the perhaps more formal that you would use in written communication. I haven't put any collocations there because really you just add this in as kind of an extra thought at the end of what you've already said. So here's a question. Do you have a similar idiom in your language? I'm always interested to know if you've got something that kind of bears the same concept of good things take time. So let me know in the comments. I would love to hear. Okay, persevere through thick and thin. So you've got a thick tree and a thin tree. We know that one is large and one is smaller. What does it mean to persevere through thick and thin? Well, the entrepreneur's ability to persevere through thick and thin was what ultimately led to the success of the business. The team's determination to persevere through thick and thin enabled them to overcome the obstacles and achieve their objectives. Okay, so persevere means keep going despite huge challenges. So we know that this is about coming through very difficult things. It means to continue striving and working hard regardless of the challenges or difficulties faced. So through the good times and the bad times, persevere through thick and thin, keep going. So persist in the face of adversity, endure through challenges, keep going no matter what. And you can persevere through thick and thin in business, life, or a project. We also use it to talk about relationships, especially ones that, have had their ups and downs and have gone on for years. If you say we've been through thick and thin, that means that it's a very mature relationship and you've had some good times and some bad times, but you've remained committed to each other. Okay, what makes a job worth persevering through thick and thin for? A job is worth persevering through thick and thin if I know I'm helping people. That would be my bottom line, my ultimate important thing. There's always going to be good things and bad things about any job, but if I know that there's a purpose that serves other people as well as myself, then that's what keeps me going through all the challenges. What about you? What makes a job worth persevering through thick and thin for? What would you say? Okay, that's all of them. Let's look at the extract again, and I'll explain as I go along, and hopefully it makes more sense. There was a time during COVID when our company almost fell apart. So the company was doing badly. Money problems threatened to shut us down, so they almost had to close. And there were a few months when it was genuinely hard to keep the lights on. So it was hard to be profitable, hard to pay the bills and keep going. We really only stayed the course. So we really only stayed in business or stayed working. We only made it because our oldest client persevered with us through thick and thin, even when we sometimes couldn't deliver the same level of service. So their oldest client gave them some flexibility and stayed with them through the challenge, even when they couldn't do what they were supposed to do. That person or that company was really flexible and understanding. So they were understanding, and their custom, their business, helped us keep the engine running, helped us keep going in a somewhat normal way. So keep the engine running, keep going, running. Their custom helped us keep the engine running somewhat normally through it all. So because of that client, they were able to kind of survive and keep going, even though it wasn't perfect. Okay, the last paragraph. It took a long time to rebuild. That's okay, though. Rome wasn't built in a day after all. So the rebuild was a complicated step-by-step process, and that idiom Rome wasn't built in a day is kind of saying, but that's okay because we're building something good. Okay, let's look at a very quick quiz. I'd love for you to think, what would you choose from the options? So number 1, John's father always reminded him that something, and that success often requires patience and persistence. Okay, A, stay the course. B, keep the lights on. C, keep the engine running. Or D, Rome wasn't built in a day. Number 2, which synonyms match best for stay the course? A, desist. B, complain. C, persist. Or D, deter. Okay, what do you think for both of those? Well, number 1, Rome wasn't built in a day. So let's look at it all together. John's father always reminded him that Rome wasn't built in a day, and that success often requires patience and persistence. Number 2, which synonym is best for stay the course? Stay the course means to persist, to keep going with something. Okay, we have stayed the course through learning these idioms. We have another day. Thank you for being here, whether you were watching on the replay or you were live. I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye for now.